Ben Rogers is the curator of the Penn Jones collection. He's
Is Robert on that?
I think it's Ben Rogers, isn't it?
Isn't it?
My schedule. Oh no, you're
I
right.
think it's Bob.
Pardon me.
That's why he's sitting there.
All right, we'll do it in order. What the hell?
You were on last night, Bob, but you didn't know it.
Hey, if I want to change the schedule.
What's his name's movie?
All right, we'll try something else. Here's who Robert Groden is. Robert Groden is the author of JFK, The Case for Conspiracy, High Treason, The Killing of a President, The Search for Lee Harvey Oswald, and the new book, is it out yet? JFK, Absolute Proof, coming out. And also wrote parts of government gunplay. He researched photographic and medical evidence in the Kennedy assassination for 46 years. He somehow obtained a copy of the original Zapruder film and worked on it for years and showed it first to researchers at a conference on the 10th anniversary when we all fell out of our chairs seeing the rotoscope version of Kennedy's head being blown apart, and got it onto national television. He released the Zapruder film and other films, the vast majority of the photographic evidence to the public all over the years, including color autopsy photographs. And he was a consultant on the photographic evidence to the House Select Committee on Assassinations, and he was also brought in not to willingly to deal with the Assassination Record Review Board, who wanted to steal all of his photographs, and I don't know if he ever got them back or not, but but anyway, just the stuff that he's shown it, he's shown people, you can see why they wanted to steal it. So Bob comes every year to COPA. He's one of the founding members, is on our board, and he also sits out on the grassy knoll and counters the 6th floor museum, and we're going to give him the honorary title soon of the Dalai Lama.
Thank you, buddy. Folks, I have to set this little sucker up. It'll take a couple of minutes. If anyone wants to stretch their legs or whatever, give yourself about 3 or 4 minutes, and the Dalai Lama will be ready.
What he's saying about Michael Kurtz's book, that's not true. So this is what pisses me off. I actually had to go down to this library. That book is not hard. It's not easy to get. So I had to look at the book and find out that McAdams is lying. So then when I challenged him in the second part of the debate, do you know did you hear what he said?
Only the first one, and then there was a couple
This is what he said. He said, I got that from somebody who wrote it on my forum. And I emailed him. I emailed him and said, John, you have a bunch of new lunatics on that forum. Do you believe everything that they say? Why don't you just go get the book and find out for yourself?
Right.
Okay? And then he lied about Dan Campbell too. He had me convinced on that one too, so I went to Summers' book. Dan Campbell said right after the assassination that Oswald was the guy using the phone in Bannister's office. And I said, now you have to be lying on that because that's in Summers' book. Summers' book is not that hard to get, okay? Right. So, it was I only did that because somebody thought it would be a good idea in Lensable Circle. Okay, I really regret that I did it.
Well, it's good for one time. It's
Stay
kind of
away
like
from those forums, Jim.
Okay.
no.
Well, Len has made me this semi-regular on his show. Okay, so
Here's what I'm getting at is that another thing is I think it's time for when the New York Times does one of their little CIA articles or whatever on the Joannides, can they at least call you Lisa Pease? You know what I mean? I was calling the reporter and emailing the reporter, and there are other sources out there than, say, Gerald Posner. and the guy told me, he says, you don't even believe how many emails and phone calls I've gotten. He did it like within 30 minutes, boom, the email box fills up, the phone call fills up. I think we educated this guy really quick with within a couple of hours of that article. I'm serious.
I'll probably send this to the screen.
They need to start calling you.
Right now, I'm just having a problem with this.
Well, did anybody call you Lisa? Okay, yeah.
We'll contact them and tell them you're available. Here's my cell phone.
Who was the reporter?
If we speak into the microphone.
whoever, Steven or Scott somebody.
Oh, Scott Shane.
Yeah.
Scott Shane.
Did he ever
Yeah,
call
that's
you?
it. Okay, no.
But he got that information from Jefferson Morgan. I mean, he's always a good source in this case. So it's not like if he wanted to tell more, he could. He had sources.
My point is, I want to get the mainstream media to start quoting people in this room rather than the usual.
Yeah.
You know, how hard could that be?
Harder than you think.
They don't want to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, their agenda is not to tell both sides.
Yeah.
Well, we know that. Maybe I'm naive.
Yeah,
Naive.
you're hopeful, huh? It's not that they don't know, it's that they don't want to.
Yeah, sure.
Introduce it.
Folks, it's booting up. I'm sorry it's taking so long. Any questions? So no.
Oh, I do
Yeah, I have a question. What's your new evidence?
Oh, there's lots of new stuff. The new book. Well, I'll explain about the new book. The book has been ready for quite a while now. The problem is the funding. It's going to cost quite a bit to do because the book, as of last count, is 1,005 photographs.
Oh, my goodness.
And a great many of them have never been published before. And this may be the last book I'll ever do. And it's the third part of the trilogy. And I've been writing it now for 14 years. And not that it took that darn long to write, it's just that I keep coming across more and more stuff. We now have the names of all three of the men on the steps, not just Emmett Hudson, but the other two as well. That'll be in the book. As I mentioned last year, we have 7 rolls of film of Lee Oswald in the hospital after he was shot and before he died. And they'll be in the book. Not all of the pictures. There's 85 of them that are still usable, and I'm putting all the important ones in, and that's new. What else? Oh gosh.
Didn't you tell me that you're gonna debunk Dale Myers and his whole?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Jim. The thing is that the other side, especially those idiots at the Discovery Channel for Unsolved History, always rely on Dale Myers and his phony computer thing. It is so inaccurate. It's not even close to being accurate as far as even movements or locations of wounds or anything like that. So we're going to go into that, certainly. The other side, President Kennedy never went like this. Never. As Cyril used to say, he was riding like this, then he just jumped across while he was behind the sign, then he went back again. And that, of course, never happened.
And didn't you say that you actually had a shot? Somebody took a picture as they're just entering the kill zone, and you told me on the phone that, Jim, that Conley is not 6 inches inboard of JFK. They're
Yeah.
almost lined up exactly.
Yeah, that's another good point. I'm dealing with that. Since the other side has made such a tremendous thing in the last couple of years that Governor Connolly was sitting inboard toward the center of the car, it wasn't true at all. If anything, he was actually sitting slightly to the outside. What happened is I've got some pictures where they were taken from the follow-up car by Dave Powers, and they've never been published before that I can find, and they show that where he's sitting. We also have the duplicate of the president's car, and had the people sitting in it. No matter what you do, you cannot get Governor Connolly far enough to the left to make the other side's argument work. It'll never work. If you deal honestly with this, we can't lose the argument. Just the other side is so used to lying. You mentioned before about the unmentionable one, about how he's truly nuts. He is crazy. And you have to ask yourself, does he really believe this stuff? Does anybody on the other side believe this stuff? And you look at the 6th floor museum. You look at the 6th floor museum. You have to wonder, their original mandate was they were supposed to show all sides of this issue equally and fairly. And from the day they've opened up, they haven't. They broke their promise. They psyched a lot of us into this. I was on their board of advisors, still am. They never took me off. And, they don't listen to a word I say. So, it all started with Gary Mack. Let me work on this a little bit. I'm almost ready. Yes, Steve.
The folks at the back want to come up their seats.
Can we turn the volume of the speakers up just a little bit?
Will do.
is right here if anybody wants one. Right there.
Organizing a protest of the sixth floor museum on November 22nd at one of these things, and literally having us all say guilty of misleading the American public or something.
Well, after we
about
do
this.
the moment of silence, we could turn the banners around and yell at them. That's okay with me.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe something a little more formal or
I
organized.
did a protest at the King site,
Uh-huh.
and then they came out and told me I couldn't hold a banner up there, and I said, I guess that's why it's called a Civil Rights Museum.
Oh! That's good.
I got a better idea, John. Why don't you make a citizen's arrest of Gary Mack?
Yeah.
I don't think he'd get that close to that.
John, what's so funny is I took the tour of the sixth floor museums 2 days ago for the first time ever. The people who are taking the tour don't believe the propaganda. Literally, when they're riding up in the elevator, they're thinking, was it LBJ or the CIA or the Mafia or Hoover? In other words, the propaganda that they're being
Come out and say,
spewed.
it must have been Gary Mack.
They're taking the tour and they don't believe the propaganda. So I thought
Well,
I'd
I
say
mean,
it.
this is one of several memorialized snipers' nests now that we have that are phony. I mean, and it's so bad down in Memphis. They have the same glassed in. It's a bathroom there. They like plexiglassed in the bathroom, and they have it. When I went up there in about '71, and into the flop house and into the bathroom, and in order to look out the window, you had to stand in the tub. The tub was flush with there's two walls like this, the tub was flush with both of them, and the window was up here above the tub. So in order to get at the window, you had to stand in the tub, and then you'd have to open the window, and in order to get a rifle to point over to where King was standing, I would have had to punch a hole in the wall with my elbow. Okay, I mean, or you could lean out the window. That'll give you a lot of purchase.
Yeah.
Trying to make a shot hanging halfway out the window. So I mean, there just wasn't any way that you get the shot off from there. But now, in the reconstruction, the tub has been moved back so that there's a space where you can stand behind the window. But they're so damn stupid. They have a picture of the bathroom from the day, and you look at the picture and look at the reconstruction, and it's different, you know. But you know, it's one phony sniper's nest after another. That's all that we get, you know. But just like Bill Hicks said, like this, it's accurate. Ray wasn't there.
Yeah.
Why don't you point out about Judge Joe Brown being such a gun expert, and how he was pulled off the case?
Well, Judge Joe Brown was the last judge to hear an appeal from James O'Ray, and he was an an elected judge in Memphis, and he was Yale educated. He's a very brilliant man, and he's also a former Black Panther. So I don't know how the hell they picked him, but they weren't happy because he's also a ballistic expert. So he had the bright idea that they should test the rifle. So they did a test of the rifle, and it didn't match the bullet that was in King's body. And he wanted to clean the barrel one more time and test it to make sure it wasn't some discrepancy in the barrel. At that point, the Supreme Court, up at the state level, the Supreme Court of the state stepped in and removed him from the case for being biased. He had asked for the FBI test and the House Select Committee test, and they said that he was leaning too far on biased in favor of the truth. That's right. And so they removed him from the case. He reminded me this is the same Supreme Court in the Scopes trial, and you know, but and then Ray got sick, and Pepper found a place for him to get a liver, but they wouldn't let him out to do it, and the case became moot when he died. But then the King family brought the civil trial, and Pepper represented the King. I mean, that's something to represent James O'Ray and the King family. And I always liked Ray's book was called Who Killed Martin Luther King? You know, but none of them. I mean, Sirhan, all of them were patsies and set up. About the only one that I think actually was a lone gunman was Mark David Chapman. Although we found out later that the doorman working at the hotel who was present at the time was in Alpha 66, and one of the Bay of Pigs Cubans. So probably helped to set it up. But I think the actually only shots came in that case from. But in almost every other one, Bremer's situation, there were extra bullets and patsies and people set up to take the fall. So Dallas was sort of a template. They just got better at it over time.
Well, back to Arthur Bremer. He's about George Wallace.
Yes.
So, who, in your opinion, I'm from Alabama, but I'm very unknowledgeable about that attempt on Governor Wallace. Who do you think was trying to kill him?
Well, I think that all of that activity at that time, Chappaquiddick and the setup of Ted Kennedy and the shooting of Wallace, was to make sure that Nixon got the election. And so it came out of those same intelligence circles, and Bremer had some ties to intelligence. Also, his sister was a secretary to the Walking Bible, Jerry Owens, and who took Sirhan to the pantry. So I mean, these people interconnect.
Thank you.
And I did work because I'm an equal opportunity researcher. I did work on the shooting of Ronald Reagan. Most other people didn't care. I'd had a bullet on the or a button on the day before that said "Shoot Bush first," but old yippee button. But but I looked into that, and there was a second gunman there as well up on the and since then they built this whole security thing that's a roof, and every year at my birthday I take people up to there and give a tour of it and explain this. But they built a roof over the driveway and a wall, and then the security exit is right there. But what they built would not stop a shot from Hinckley standing in the same position. It would stop a shot that actually hit him from above up on the what I call the bushy knoll. You ready?
Okay, we're just going to go through a couple of the things that are in the new book. Am I in everybody's way here?
Move a little bit. There you go.
Thank you. And thanks for your help with the computer.
Oh, that's good.
All right, we all know this fella. That's why we're here. President Kennedy, of course, came here on a political trip, and it ended up being his last, unfortunately. And it has started something that we've been investigating now for 46 years. And it amazes me that even after all this time, new stuff is still turning up. New witnesses, new photographic evidence, and so on and so on. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that turns up ends up in the clutches of the 6th floor museum, which I refer to as a black hole, because stuff goes in and never comes out. And I'm going to just run ahead to some of the... Actually, this is the wrong presentation. Something happened to the one I was going to show you. I can't find it in the computer, and I apologize for that. It was the same one as I showed last year. It was here last week, and it's not here now. So I apologize for that. But basically...
That's Fort Worth, Memorial.
Yeah, we went through this last year. I don't think anybody wants me to go through the whole presentation. First of all, we don't have the time for it, but this is all the stuff that really brought us here, is all the stuff that happened. And you're all familiar with most of this stuff. Well, actually, there's a film coming up in a moment.
President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the trademark. I was on 7th Freeway earlier, and even the freeway was jam-packed with spectators waiting their chance to see the president as he made his way toward the trademark.
disgusting.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route. Stand by. There's numerous people running up the hill alongside Elm Street, there by the Simmons Freeway. Several police officers are rushing up the hill at this time. Stand by. Just a moment, please. Something has happened in the motorcade route. Stand by, please.
Now, what you saw was actual footage. Nothing was recreated except the audio track, obviously, for the actual shots. I think what I'll do is move on here to the actual shots, deal with that, and then raise the point about what's been happening lately with the way the stuff's been misrepresented in some of the more current TV shows. We've got a lot of stuff that's been appearing on TV this year. Last year there was virtually nothing. This year there's an endless amount of garbage.
You mean you didn't take Inside the Target Car seriously?
You know, for those of you who are going to be in the plaza later on, if you'll stop by the table where I'm set up on the knoll, when they were shooting that, I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, thank you. When they were shooting Inside the Target Car, they were on the grassy knoll behind the stockade fence, and Gary Mack was their little lapdog, and he was giving them all kinds of false information. And I'm watching them do this, and Dave Perry is down by the car, and everyone's doing their thing, and they had everything so wrong that it was frightening. And I'm sitting there with the photographs in my hand, and I knew that the producers and directors, the camera people, whatever, might or might not know that they're lying through their teeth. You know, so I went up and I showed them the photographs. They've got, in their reenactment, they've got Mrs. Kennedy with her, if you go laterally to the car, her head is behind the president's.
Right.
In the Zapruder film, and in reality, she was sitting in front of him.
Right.
And I was wondering why they were doing this. She's got her arm around his neck, which never happened. I mean, everything was so completely wrong. So I pointed it out. I went behind the fence, and I told them. I said, "Look," and I showed them the pictures and showed them how wrong they were. They said, "Mind your own business." So, they didn't care. They really didn't care. They knew they were lying. And I couldn't really figure out why until I heard the show itself. And they said, well, honestly, where she was sitting, we would have had a dead Mrs. Kennedy.
Right.
And, that's what they were doing. The president,
purpose.
yeah. The president was looking straight ahead. Well, let's go into that. I'm sorry?
We're already over time.
Am I? Oh, okay. Well, I started late. Oh, you're right. Okay. Okay, I'll get out of here real quickly. And I'll show you, and then in the plaza, we'll get back to it later on. You guys all know this stuff anyway, but...
Not everybody knows all that stuff.
Well, I tell you what, for those of you that will be here next year, I'll take more time and I'll go through the whole thing with you. And I'll find that missing file. I don't know what happened to it. It was there. I think the reason why I had trouble starting it up, there must have been some kind of a problem with that one particular file. I'll be
Somebody
right.
else lost data here today.
Tell us about your new evidence.
Oh, here, this is one of those pictures that you were talking about. Now,
What do you say
here.
about his coat being bunched up and back?
It wasn't. That's an optical illusion. What appears to be a bunched up thing at the corner of his jacket is actually his shoulder.
In the center of his back.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Bunched
Right.
up in the center.
Again, it's an illusion. It really isn't. But even so, take his clothes off. Look at the location on his back.
Right.
Forget all about the clothing if you want to. Now, here, very quickly. You know what parallax is? The difference between two different views, okay? When Dave Powers took this, he was in the center. So the parallax shifts out the side here. If he was right behind the president, Governor Connolly would be sitting directly in front of him.
Oh, I see.
You
Okay.
see? And this too, how many times have we heard from the other side, we don't have any photographs when the single bullet happened? Well, it's because the single bullet never happened. But this is the exact moment when it was supposed to have happened. And nothing will work out. That's where Governor Connolly was hit. The single bullet would have to go through like this. That would be the single wound. And now there's that thing that you're talking about there. Again, it's an illusion. The president's jacket is actually going straight down. This is his right shoulder out here. This is the way we're looking at it.
What frame is it? What frame does that correspond to?
Oh, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Probably two something.
Yeah.
It ought to be around 185, I guess. I'm not really
right
sure.
before he goes behind the sign?
Yeah, yeah. So again, this is where the throat wound would be. If that had entered there and moved on to here, there is no corresponding wound to the throat. It's not even close. So when the other side shows their TV shows like Unsolved History, they're just lying. I mean, the evidence is so clear in this type of area. Anyway, this is the fatal headshot situation again. Again, Mrs. Kennedy is in front of the president.
Right.
They've got her sitting behind in their recreation.
Right.
And again, at the moment of the fatal shot, the president is looking straight ahead. Yes, his head is down a little bit, and he's tilted, but he's not turned.
Right.
When you watch that show, they've got him tilted 45 degrees to the side. He's looking out the side of the car. So that a shot from the knoll entering here would exit out the side of his head instead of the rear.
Oh, they
And-
rotated his head inward?
Yeah. Yeah. So next time you watch the show, watch for that. That's one of the things I was going to show you in the other presentation. Anyway, I am over time, and I apologize. I'll be glad to talk to any of you on the know later on. Thanks for your patience.
Is
And
Gary Mack going to be there?
only in effigy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't you have some new information regarding where exactly where Oswald was when, where Harvey was?
Yeah, well, whether it was Lee or Harvey or the Man in the Moon.
A new witness.
Yeah, there is a new witness. Well, she's not so new. She was in her 90s when I interviewed her. She's dead now. Her name was Geraldine Reed. And if you guys are familiar with the name Reed, R-E-I-D, in the Warren Report, you'll never find her name. Not if you look for it. It's not R-E-E-D. There are a few R-E-E-D. She's R-E-I-D, and there were two of them, Dolores and Geraldine. They only list one. They list Dolores, who was down on the first floor, and they never use her first name, ever. They referred to her as Mrs. R.A. Reed, Mrs. Robert A. Reed, which confused everybody because everybody thought they were talking to Geraldine. They weren't. She was talking to Oswald as the shots were being fired on the second floor. She's the one who made the change for him for the Coke machine. We always assumed that she'd had the money, that he'd had the money. He didn't. He went in there, asked for change, and said, "No pennies, please." As she's counting it out, putting the money in his hand, the shots went off. She was taken to Washington. They questioned her. She told them that. They told her to keep her mouth shut if she wanted to stay healthy, and she did. As far as I know, she only spoke to 3 or 4 people ever about it, and I'm one of them. So I promised her I wouldn't release it until she was gone. Now she is, and it'll be in the next book. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could just speak briefly about the slide that you have in this presentation of the photographic recreation that the FBI did of the timing of the rifle, of Oswald's rifle when they were firing it, for the 1964 recreation. I saw it in there when you were flipping through real quickly.
Yeah, the people with the HSCA were saying, "Oh, we could do it. We could fire that fast." No, they couldn't.
Yeah.
No one has done it. No one has ever fired with any accuracy that quickly. I have a Carcano exactly like his, with exactly the same sight. To get off 3 shots, it took me 12 seconds. That thing is really sluggish, and mine is better than his. I've dry fired the original one in the archives. Can't do it as a researcher, but working for the House Assassinations Committee, I got a chance to do it, and his was worse than mine. Their recreation proved it took a minimum of 2.3 seconds to fire 2 shots if you don't take time to aim. Much longer if you do, and it's hard, very hard to reacquire the sight in the telescopic sight, so you can't do it. I know I'm over time, and thank you, John. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Take care.